Good evening and welcome to KQED Newsroom. I'm Thuy Vu. It's not just kids who are getting ready to hit the books. California schools will be put to the test this year as well with two major policy changes. First, California's new funding formula devised by Governor Jerry Brown. It puts local districts in control of how they spend education funding and provides more money for low-income students and English learners. Also, the National Common Core standards take full effect this school year. They drastically change how students are taught and tested. Joining me now for an explanation are California State School Board President Michael Kirst and Jill Tucker, San Francisco Chronicle education reporter. Michael, let's begin with you. The new so-called local control funding formula is a dramatic shift for school districts. Can you explain how it works and why is it needed?
The old system of financing was really an historical accretion going back to the 1960s. It had no underlying rationale. It did not adjust for different pupil needs. It was convoluted and almost impossible to understand. And it relied on lots of state earmarks telling schools to spend money on librarians or school gardens or remedial reading teachers or whatever.
All dictated from Sacramento on a statewide
heavily
level.
Dictated from Sacramento, and we had 41 of these categorical programs which consumed about a third of the budget. So the change we made was to really throw all that out and start over. So now, essentially, you get a target for spending, and for low income districts, you'll get about 50% more per pupil over the next 5 to 6 years. So you get a base amount. If you have low income children or English learners who are not low income, most are, or foster care children, you get 20% more. And if you have a concentration, like say Oakland, of more than 55% of these pupils, you get even more money, a much bigger jump of money, about 50% more. So it makes it much more pupil directed. It's adjusted for grades. You get a little bit more money for elementary schools than secondary schools.
So it's a big change.
It does all these things, yeah.
How dramatic is this shift, Jill? I mean, you've been covering education for many years.
Yeah, I don't want to say how many, but yeah. I never thought that I would see this change in my career. The old formula, as Mike said, was so convoluted but so embedded in Sacramento. And this new local control funding formula, it basically just completely tossed out the old system. And I just never thought that I would see Sacramento get that momentum to take something that was so embedded in what, layers of policy and political desires and in the hands of Sacramento, and to say, we're cutting all that and we're throwing the cash at the school districts, almost no strings attached, and saying, we want you to focus on these higher need kids.
So the momentum is there, but there are definitely concerns as well. Schools already have their plans in place on how to spend this money. Are they sound plans? Are there accountability factors built in?
Well, the law requires that every district have a plan in place of how they're going to spend the money, and specifically the money for low-income kids or English learners or foster children. And so those plans are in place. They were made with community feedback, parent feedback. I think the concerns that a lot of people have, though, and it was under the old system as well, was how do you follow the money? Is it transparent enough? Will this money truly get to the kids who really need it? Or will it be gobbled up by special interests in the community or at school district or schools individually, for salaries, for example, which is a fear. I think many school districts have really good plans. Some are a little harder to understand. And I think, but transparency and will this money actually get to those kids and make a difference?
Well, how are teachers responding? Teachers unions, administrators, and I think there is a concern by some civil rights groups out there that with middle-class parents and teachers unions being politically powerful, that this money could be diverted into other things.
Well, the law requires a lot of community and parental participation. School districts have run, scores of meetings with the communities. They've never been involved in local budgeting before like this. Los Angeles started out wanting to reduce their deficit and ended up with a formula that distributes it to low-income schools. So we've really changed public participation, and the conversation's much more about how the resources will improve pupil outcomes. The old system told you how to spend the money, but didn't hold you for what you were trying to do with it as explicitly.
And it allows for a lot more flexibility at a local level, because in the past I used to say that they would give you money if you wanted to buy pink curtains, but you could only get the money if you bought pink curtains or whatever it was, textbooks or whatever. Now, each district is able to say, we don't need that. We don't need textbooks. What we really need are librarians or literacy tutors. And another district may say, we want something else.
So that's the funding component, but this is also happening at the same time that California is joining about 44 other states in fully implementing the federal Common Core standards this year. What is the purpose of Common Core, and how will it change the way students are taught?
Well, I think, we've been implementing Common Core now for several years, and I think there's still a lot of confusion out there. The Common Core standards are just that, they're standards, which means it kind of says what kids should learn in each grade. Now, how they learn that, or what the curriculum is, what the textbook is, what the materials they have, what math problems they solve, is very much a local issue, down to the school level or the school district level. And so it really is just shaking up a little bit of what kids are taught when. So under Common Core, you start bringing algebraic concepts in at the early grades, kindergarten, first grade, and those are maintained in a sequence as the kids get older. So it focuses a lot more on critical thinking and they're
and showing and demonstrating things
showing
as opposed to a multiple choice.
Yeah, it's supposed to get,
test.
As opposed to doing 20 questions of long division, they might look at how you would use long division to create a garden of strawberries.
And the testing is going to be done via computers. And how is that going to work? My understanding is that it will toss out different follow-up questions based on how you answer. Is that right?
Right. We're going from paper and pencil to all computer adaptive. So it'll be on the computer, and if we give you difficult questions and you're answering them, it gives you more difficult questions. And if you're having trouble, it takes you down and gives you easier questions. Moreover, each student will get between an hour and a half of a performance exam. This is sort of like driving the car for your driver's test rather than just answering a multiple choice test. Mm-hmm. And this test will be something like a problem on nuclear power, what you think. It'll have you read various things. You'll have to look at that. You'll have to come up with your own views. You'll have to draw from the facts in the articles or pieces of research you're reading. So it's a whole new ballgame. Very, very different kind of assessment theory and assessment implementation.
So the standards sound like they're going to be tougher than what schools are traditionally accustomed to. But if you have a system where students and teachers are used to teaching and learning the old way, are they going to be ready for these new standards?
Well, they'll be ready, I think, quicker than we think, but it'll take a number of years. We're really looking for 3 or 4 years of phase-in until this is finally done. We did that with our old assessment system. So I think they're partially ready, and I think once they see the assessment, they'll really believe what they have to do.
Yeah, we're still getting, we're still seeing the curriculum getting into schools. Again, the standards are out there, but what the books are or what materials teachers use, those are still being developed or still being incorporated into the classroom. So we're still seeing a lot of teacher training on the new standards, new curriculum used. This year it's definitely going to be an interesting year watching it get implemented and then have the kids go into the testing of it.
And Michael, just real quickly, I know this is supposed to close the achievement gap, but if you have a system where maybe not all teachers and students are ready, do you think that it will actually close the gap or widen it? Just real quickly here.
Yeah, I think it will bring all students up over time to a level where they're much better able to succeed in post-secondary education or in job training, and so I think we'll get kids to a much higher threshold and base. Okay. I think after that you'll see more gap closing.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Michael Kirst, California State School Board President, thank you, and also thanks to you as well. Jill Tucker, San Francisco Chronicle education reporter.